The planet Thalorus 4 glimmered in the blackness of space, a dusty jewel of red and gold. Its terrain was rough, scarred with jagged mountains, deep valleys, and endless stretches of iron-rich plains. The human colony had been working here for decades, mining precious minerals that could fuel faster-than-light travel and new energy sources for Earth's ever-growing industries. To most, Thalorus 4 was just another outpost in the galaxy, a harsh, unforgiving land that demanded hard work and persistence. To Marcus Ryn, it was home, and a place where discovery hid in the dust, waiting for the brave to uncover it. Marcus was a man in his late 30s, lean and strong, with sharp brown eyes that missed almost nothing. As the foreman of the excavation crew, he was responsible not just for the miners' safety, but also for the careful study of anything unusual they uncovered. That was why, on this scorching morning, he had halted the operation at a rocky plateau near the northern ridge. His scanners had detected something strange below the surface, a massive energy signature, unlike anything he had seen before. "Marcus," called Jenna, one of his assistants, wiping sweat from her brow. "The ground is hard as iron here. Maybe it's just a mineral vein. Should we continue?" Marcus shook his head, his fingers hovering over the scanner display. "No, this isn't normal. There's a living pattern here, but it's dormant. Almost like it's waiting." His words sounded strange even to himself, but he couldn't ignore the pulse of energy thrumming faintly beneath the surface. The crew grumbled. They had worked years under Marcus's orders, and most had learned that when he insisted, it wasn't a whim. Slowly, the team began removing layers of rock and dust with care, uncovering a massive crystalline structure embedded in the plateau. At first glance, it looked like a natural formation, brilliant, jagged, and shimmering in the morning sun. But as Marcus stepped closer, he saw a familiar pattern in the formation. "It's organic," he whispered. "Not rock? Something alive?" The others exchanged uneasy glances. Mining was one thing, but discovering alien life, especially something large, was another. "Alive? You mean, like, a beast?" one of the miners asked, stepping back. "I don't want to get eaten today." Marcus raised a hand. "Not yet. Let's observe first, and stay calm." He crouched beside the crystalline shell, brushing away the outer layer of mineral dust. Beneath it, he could make out smooth, shining scales. They were enormous, easily the size of a small vehicle, and covered with a thin layer of centuries-old residue. He could barely contain his awe. The creature had not moved in. He guessed, maybe thousands of years. Jenna leaned in closer. "Marcus, that's huge. What is it?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. He needed to understand. Using a portable scanner, he measured vital signs. His eyes widened at the faint, rhythmic pulse. "It's alive, but dormant, maybe in some kind of hibernation." The crew fell silent. They had heard stories of Dracorians, legendary alien predators that ruled Thalorus 4 long before humans arrived. These massive creatures were said to have scales harder than steel, eyes that glowed like molten fire, and a strength no human could match. Most of the stories painted them as extinct. Their kind vanished eons ago. But here, beneath his feet, lay one of those legends, Zira, the last known Dracorian guardian. Marcus felt a mix of fear and excitement. He had spent his life exploring and studying alien worlds, but nothing had prepared him for a living legend. While the others whispered about danger, Marcus made a decision. He would protect Zira, not harm her. The risk was immense, but so was the opportunity. He directed the team to set up a perimeter. "No one touches her. No one disturbs her until we understand what we're dealing with." Hours passed as Marcus carefully analyzed Zira's condition. Her scales were covered in layers of mineral dust and hardened residue, remnants of centuries spent encased in crystal. He realized that even the faint warmth he felt from her body indicated she was in stasis, not dead. Her breathing was slow but steady, and her eyes, though closed, seemed to flicker with awareness when sunlight touched them. Jenna watched him silently. "Marcus, do you think she remembers? I mean, After 2,000 years? Marcus considered this. I don't know. Maybe memory lasts in ways we don't understand. But something tells me she knows. She knows we are here. That evening, as the Thaloris sun dipped behind jagged mountains, Marcus stayed by Zyra's side. The crew had gone back to their temporary habitat, leaving him with the alien dragon. He placed his hand gently on the largest scale he could reach, feeling the faint heat beneath his palm. You've been alone a long time, he murmured. But you won't be anymore. The moment was interrupted by a soft vibration, barely perceptible. Zyra's eye opened, just a slit, and glowed faintly. Marcus froze. He hadn't expected any reaction, but the creature didn't attack. Instead, she tilted her massive head, observing him with a curious intelligence that made his pulse quicken. He swallowed. I'm not going to hurt you. The Dracorian made a low, rumbling sound from deep within her chest. It was a warning, but also, perhaps a greeting. Marcus had read about such behavior in Earth's large predators, tigers, lions, bears, but he had never seen it on this scale. Zyra was testing him, sensing whether he could be trusted. For the next few days, Marcus worked with careful patience. He cleaned away the thick dust and mineral layers that clung to Zyra's scales, using gentle brushes and non-invasive tools. Every movement was deliberate, every gesture cautious. At first, Zyra growled and snapped, her long teeth gleaming in the sunlight. But slowly, she began to relax. She allowed Marcus to touch her more freely, sometimes even leaning into his touch in a way that suggested acknowledgement, if not trust. The crew remained at a cautious distance, awed and fearful. They watched as their foreman, a Humyn, performed what no one else could. He connected with a being that had survived millennia without human help. One night, Marcus sat by Zyra as she slept, or at least as she rested. He examined her scales, noting the remnants of ancient minerals and the streaks of what looked like centuries-old soot. You've survived so much, he whispered. And yet, you're still alive. You're incredible. Zyra's eyes flickered open once more, and for a brief moment it felt like she understood. Marcus didn't speak. He simply nodded, as if acknowledging her resilience. Then she closed her eyes again, the pulse in her body steady and strong. Marcus knew that the real challenge would come soon. Zyra was not just a relic. She was a living predator, instinctively wary of everything around her. The human colony had no idea that she existed, and some of the miners would see her as a threat to be destroyed. But Marcus also knew something else. Humans could do what no one else could. They could understand, adapt, and form bonds where others saw only danger. And if he could gain Zyra's trust, if he could restore her strength, she could become the greatest ally humanity had ever known. As the wind swept across the red plains of Thaloris IV, Marcus stood beside the ancient Dracorian, brushing the last of the dust from her scales. For the first time in 2,000 years, Zyra felt the careful, deliberate touch of another being, not as a conqueror, but as a caretaker. And for the first time in 2,000 years, Marcus felt the weight of what he had discovered. A living legend, awake again, waiting for the human who had the courage to understand her. In the distance, the twin moons of Thaloris IV rose, casting silver light across the plateau. The stage was set. The legend had returned, and humanity, with its patience and heart, had a chance to prove that it could tame the untamable, not through force, but through respect. Marcus smiled faintly. Tomorrow, we begin properly, he said. And you, Zyra, are going to remember what it means to live again. And somewhere deep within her ancient mind, Zyra rumbled in response. Not a growl, not a threat, but something that felt like hope. This part ends with Marcus discovering Zyra, awakening her from centuries of stasis and beginning the first step of restoring her, setting the stage for bonding, challenges, and future adventures. The morning sun of Thaloris IV rose slowly, spilling orange and gold across the jagged plains. Marcus Rin stood on the rocky plateau beside Zyra, the massive Dracorian, who now rested more calmly than before. Her scales, though still covered in layers of ancient dust and hardened residue, reflected the sunlight in a dull shimmer. It was clear to Marcus that today would be the first full day of restoration, not just cleaning her physically, but also reconnecting her mind to the world around her. The Humyn crew had gathered nearby, a mix of excitement and nervousness painted on their faces. No one had ever seen a Dracorian up close, let alone survived an encounter. But Marcus had insisted that they give Zyra space. Only he would handle her for now, until trust had been earned. "Marcus," Jenna said, shading her eyes against the sun. "Are you sure this is safe? I mean, she's huge, and she's a predator." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know. But she's not just a predator. She's intelligent. If we do this right, we don't just survive. We gain an ally. And not just any ally. One of the most powerful creatures the galaxy has ever known." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Some murmured doubts, but they had learned long ago that Marcus's instincts were usually correct. He approached Zyra cautiously, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. He noticed subtle signs of awareness in her body, a flick of her tail, the slight twitch of her ears, a soft rumble vibrating deep in her chest. Marcus spoke softly. "Zyra, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." For a moment she remained still, as though considering his words. Then, with a low rumble, she exhaled a plume of faintly glowing mist, a sign that Marcus had read about in Dracorian behavioral studies. It was not aggression, but a warning. She was alert and watching. Marcus knelt beside her massive claw, placing a hand gently on the rough surface of her scales. They were hard, but uneven from centuries of neglect. Small mineral deposits clung to them like barnacles. Carefully, he began to remove the loose debris, using soft brushes and specially designed ultrasonic tools that vibrated gently to loosen the hardened layers. Zyra's reaction was cautious at first. She flicked her massive tail and lowered her head slightly, keeping her glowing eyes fixed on Marcus. The first few minutes were tense. Any wrong move could trigger instinctive aggression. But Marcus remembered his training. Patience was the key to trust. "Good girl," he murmured quietly. "Just relax. Let me help you." Hours passed as Marcus worked meticulously. The ancient dust and residue began to fall away, revealing glimpses of Zyra's true coloration, a deep, shimmering bronze with streaks of silver running along her scales. The sunlight caught them, making her appear almost radiant. Marcus marveled, silently. The creature that had been dormant for 2,000 years was beautiful beyond imagination. By midday, Zyra seemed less tense. She no longer snapped or hissed when Marcus brushed her scales. Instead, she shifted slightly closer, almost as if inviting him to continue. For Marcus, this was a small victory, but a significant one. Bonding with a Dracorian required careful attention to subtle cues, and Zyra's willingness to tolerate his touch meant that trust was beginning to form. Jenna, observing from a safe distance, whispered to one of the miners, "I can't believe he's doing this. I mean, he's actually calming her down." The miner shook his head. "Humans are weird. Only Marcus would think a 2,000-year-old dragon could be, friend." Marcus paid no attention to the chatter. His focus was entirely on Zyra. He continued removing layers of hardened material, moving from her claws to her massive wings, which had been folded tightly against her body for centuries. Each brushstroke seemed to awaken something inside her. The subtle rise and fall of her chest grew steadier, and her eyes, once dimmed by stasis, began to gleam with curiosity. When he finally reached her head, Marcus was cautious. Zyra's jaw was enormous, lined with sharp teeth capable of crushing metal, but she didn't move aggressively. Instead, she lowered her head slightly, allowing him to gently brush the dust from around her eyes and nostrils. "You're stronger than anyone gives you credit for," Marcus whispered. "And you've survived longer than anyone could imagine. You deserve care." Zyra rumbled in response, a sound that resonated through the ground beneath Marcus's feet. It was deep, like distant thunder, but it lacked menace. Marcus recognized it as approval, a primitive, instinctive acknowledgement of his respect. By late afternoon, the transformation was visible. Zyra's scales were glimmering in the sunlight, her wings unfolded gracefully, and the faint glow of energy beneath her skin pulsed steadily. Marcus stood back, wiping sweat from his brow. He had succeeded in the first stage, physical restoration. But he knew the true challenge was next: mental and emotional bonding. Humans had long studied Dracorians and other apex predators, and one lesson was clear: trust could not be forced. Predators responded to understanding and empathy, not dominance. Marcus needed to communicate with Zyra, show her that humans could be allies, not threats. He sat cross-legged near her massive paw, placing his hands gently on the ground. "Zyra," he said softly, "I'm your friend. You don't need to be afraid. I will not hurt you, and I will protect you. Can you understand me?" For a long moment, nothing happened. Zyra's glowing eyes narrowed slightly, studying him. Then, slowly, she leaned her massive head closer, allowing him to place his hand against her forehead. The warmth was incredible. She radiated heat like a living furnace, yet it was controlled and steady. Marcus felt a strange connection, as if her mind was reaching out in curiosity, testing him just as he had tested her patience. The first true sign of bonding came when Zyra lowered her massive body, curling slightly around Marcus's position. It was not submission, but a gesture of trust, an acknowledgement that she recognized him as a caretaker, not a threat. Marcus smiled, though he remained cautious. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said. "Tomorrow, we begin the real work, restoring your strength, teaching you to move again, and helping you remember who you are." As the sun set behind the mountains, the human crew gathered closer, unable to contain their awe. Zyra's silhouette against the orange sky was majestic, almost mythical. Marcus felt a swell of pride and hope. This was no longer just an ancient predator. They were forming a partnership that could change everything on Thaloris IV. Night fell, and Marcus remained beside Zyra. He observed her breathing, the subtle movements of her tail, and the gentle flicker of her eyes. Somewhere deep inside, she was awakening not just physically but mentally. The centuries of isolation had left her wary, but she was beginning to sense that humans, at least Marcus, could be trusted. "Rest now," Marcus murmured. "Tomorrow, we start fresh. You'll remember the world, and I'll help you see it again." A low rumble vibrated through the ground, a sound Marcus understood as contentment. Zyra was not asleep, but she was calm. For the first time in 2,000 years, she felt the presence of a being who did not seek to dominate her, but to restore her. The night was silent except for the occasional whisper of the wind through the rocky plateau. Marcus sat in quiet vigilance, knowing that the journey had only begun. Zyra was powerful, intelligent, and cautious, but the bond forming between them was unique, a bridge between human patience and alien instinct. By dawn, Marcus was ready for the next stage, encouraging Zyra to move, teaching her that humans could guide her safely, and helping her regain the strength that had lain dormant for millennia. He had seen the potential, and he knew the rest would not be easy, but he was ready. Humans had survived in harsh worlds before, but this was different. They were awakening a legend. And in return, Zyra would awaken humanity's greatest ability: the power to understand, restore, and form bonds that no other species could achieve. Marcus rose as the first rays of sunlight touched the plateau. Zyra stirred, stretching her massive wings and letting out a low roar, a sound that was not threatening, but full of life. The ancient predator was beginning to remember herself. Marcus smiled. "Today, we move forward," he said, "and together, we will show the galaxy what humans can do." With that, the first full day of bonding ended, setting the stage for the next challenge: moving Zyra, restoring her fully, and testing the limits of human-alien cooperation. The morning air on Thaloris IV was sharp and cold, with the twin suns barely cresting the jagged horizon. Marcus Ryn stood atop the plateau, surveying Zyra, who was now fully awake and much cleaner than before. Her scales shone in the sunlight, bronze and silver streaks reflecting every ray like molten metal. Her massive wings stretched, flaring slightly as if testing their strength for the first time in 2,000 years. Marcus's heart pounded with a mix of excitement and nerves. The previous days of careful bonding had been successful, but today marked the real test. Zyra was no longer dormant. She was powerful, alert, and intelligent. The next step was to help her regain mobility and teach her to respond to human guidance. It was a risky undertaking, but Marcus knew that humans could achieve what others couldn't, not through force, but through patience, understanding, and courage. "Ready, Zyra," he called softly. The dragon lifted her massive head, eyes glowing faintly in acknowledgement. She let out a low rumble, almost like a growl of curiosity, not aggression. Marcus nodded. "Okay, first we walk," he said, signaling to the crew to keep their distance. Zyra shifted her enormous legs, bending and straightening them slowly. Her movements were awkward at first, stiff from centuries of immobility. Marcus guided her gently, using verbal commands and hand signals. "Step forward," he instructed, pointing to the open plain ahead. Her first step shook the ground like a small earthquake. The crew flinched, but Marcus held his position. "Easy, Zyra. One step at a time." She paused, looking at him with intelligent eyes, as if judging whether to trust his direction. Then, slowly, she lifted her other leg and followed. Each movement was careful but deliberate. Marcus could see the pride growing in her posture, a sign that her instinctive confidence was returning. Hours passed as he guided her through walking drills across the plateau. Sometimes she stumbled, sometimes she shifted her weight incorrectly, but Marcus corrected her gently each time. The bond between them deepened with every step. He realized that trust was not just about calming her. It was about teaching her that humans could help her regain her strength without restricting her freedom. By midday, Zyra had moved across the plateau with surprising agility. Her wings, once folded tightly against her body, now extended fully, showing their true size, enough to cast a shadow over the entire crew. Marcus felt a surge of awe. He had known Dracorians were legendary predators, but seeing her stretch, flex her muscles after centuries of dormancy was breathtaking. "Look at her," Jenna whispered from a safe distance. "She's majestic, like nothing I've ever seen." Marcus nodded, not taking his eyes off Zyra. "She's learning to trust us, and soon we'll see just how powerful she really is." The moment for testing came sooner than expected. A series of sensors placed along the edge of the plateau detected movement in the distance. Marcus squinted through his binoculars and saw a group of interstellar poachers approaching the colony. They were armed and aggressive, their ships hovering above the plain like predators themselves. "Zyra," Marcus said calmly, though his pulse quickened, "we have company. You'll need to defend the colony, but you'll follow my guidance. Can you do that?" Zyra's eyes narrowed, the glow intensifying. She let out a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the ground, a warning of her readiness. Marcus stepped back slightly, giving her room. The poachers began firing their plasma weapons, sending beams of energy across the plain. The crew took cover, but Zyra remained calm. Marcus ran to her side. "Stay with me," he said. "We're a team." For the first time, the bond they had forged was put to the test. Zyra lowered her massive body, crouched like a hunter ready to strike, and then launched forward with incredible speed. Her claws sank into the rocky ground, and she leapt with a powerful thrust, landing between the poachers and the human colony. Marcus guided her with quick hand signals and commands. "Left! Cover the perimeter!" Zyra obeyed instinctively, her agility and power astonishing the crew. She moved with precision, using her massive wings to leap over obstacles and her tail to knock down attacking drones. The poachers were unprepared for the combination of human strategy and alien instinct. "Focus on their leader," Marcus shouted, pointing to a hovering ship at the center of the attackers' formation. Zyra's eyes followed, glowing brighter, as she crouched and then surged forward in a powerful leap. She struck the ship with her tail, sending it crashing into the ground. Sparks flew, and the poachers faltered. The humans, inspired by Zyra's actions, rallied. They used coordinated fire to disable the remaining attackers' weapons, while Marcus continued guiding Zyra with subtle signals. Every movement was precise, a dance of predator and human foreman working in perfect harmony. Minutes later, the poachers had fled, retreating to their ships and leaving the colony unharmed. Zyra let out a triumphant roar, echoing across the red plains. Marcus ran to her side, placing a hand on her massive snout. "You did it," he said. "You protected them, and you trusted me." Zyra lowered her head, allowing him to scratch behind her ears. The rumble she made was deep and contented, a sound that Marcus recognized as approval and bonding. The crew emerged from cover, awe and respect evident in every face. "Marcus, that was incredible," Jenna said. She's amazing." Marcus smiled but kept his focus on Zyra. "She's not just amazing. She's proof that humans can form bonds with beings no one else could reach. This is what we're capable of." Over the next several days, Marcus continued to train Zyra. They practiced flight exercises, testing her wings over short distances at first, and then longer sweeps across the plateau. She learned quickly, guided by Marcus's commands and encouragement. Each exercise strengthened her muscles, improved her agility, and deepened their bond. During downtime, Marcus would sit beside her, brushing her scales and speaking softly. Zyra seemed to enjoy the attention, occasionally nudging him gently or resting her massive head on his shoulder. The humans around them watched in awe, seeing a creature they had once feared now acting like a guardian and companion. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the jagged horizon, Marcus reflected on what had happened. In just a few days, Zyra had gone from a dormant, wary predator to an active, trusting guardian of the colony. He realized that humans had a unique ability to connect, communicate, and cooperate with other species in ways no other race in the galaxy could. Jenna approached, shaking her head in disbelief. "I still can't believe it. She's friendly. And yet, she's powerful enough to wipe out any of us with a single swipe." Marcus nodded. "That's the point. Strength alone isn't enough. It's trust, understanding, and patience that make a real bond. Zyra isn't just a weapon, she's a partner. And she's shown the galaxy exactly what humans can do when we respect and work with others." As the nights passed, the bond between Marcus and Zyra only grew stronger. She would respond to his voice, follow his guidance in drills, and even show signs of playfulness, nudging rocks or chasing shadows. The humans began to see that her intelligence and instincts were not just about survival. They were about forming connections, choosing allies, and protecting those she trusted. Then came the final test. A massive storm swept across Thaloris IV, violent winds and heavy dust threatening to destroy the mining equipment and the colony structures. Marcus had little time to evacuate the crew, but he knew Zyra could help. "Zyra," he called over the howling wind, "we need your help. Can you protect them?" Her glowing eyes met his, and she rumbled, a sound that seemed to echo determination. With a powerful leap, she positioned herself between the colony and the approaching storm. Using her massive wings and body, she diverted debris, shielded the structures, and guided the crew to safety. By the time the storm passed, the colony had survived without serious damage, and Zyra stood victorious, exhausted but alert. Marcus approached, placing his hands on her massive snout once more. "You did it again," he said, "and you did it with trust, not fear. You're remarkable, Zyra." Zyra rumbled in response, nudging him gently. Marcus smiled. Humanity had proven something extraordinary, that even the most ancient, fearsome predator could become an ally through patience, empathy, and courage. For the first time, Marcus realized that this was more than restoration. It was the start of a new era. Humans and Zyra would not just survive, they would thrive together, exploring new challenges and protecting one another in ways that no one else in the galaxy could understand. The sun set over Thaloris IV, casting long shadows of the plateau and the massive dragon. Marcus stood beside her, feeling a sense of pride and hope unlike anything he had ever known. The legend of Zyra had returned, and humanity had proven that their greatest strength was not technology or weapons. It was their ability to connect, restore, and inspire even the most ancient of creatures. And in the quiet moments of the night, Marcus whispered to Zira, "Tomorrow we continue. We explore, we grow, and together we'll show the galaxy exactly what we're capable of." Zira's glowing eyes met his, and a low rumble echoed through the plateau, a sound of agreement, trust, and the unspoken promise of many adventures yet to come. The morning light bathed the plateau of Thaloris IV in warm orange and gold, glinting off Zira's polished scales. She was fully awake now, her wings strong, her massive limbs agile, and her senses sharp. After weeks of careful restoration, guided by Marcus Rin, she had reclaimed her full strength. Her presence was awe-inspiring, a living legend reborn. Marcus stood beside her, his gaze sweeping across the colony. The humans had adapted to having a massive alien guardian among them. The initial fear had faded, replaced by respect, admiration, and a sense of security unlike anything they had ever known. Zira had proven herself in both drills and real challenges, defending the colony against poachers and natural disasters, and her bond with Marcus had grown deeper with every shared experience. "Morning, Zira," Marcus said, walking to her side. He extended a hand, gently resting it against her massive snout. The dragon lowered her head, eyes glowing faintly in greeting. The crew had gathered nearby, watching with a mixture of fascination and caution. Even after weeks of living alongside Zira, her sheer size and strength were intimidating. Yet the humans had come to realize that the key to their relationship was respect and understanding, not fear. Jenna, standing beside Marcus, shook her head in amazement. "I still can't believe it. You really restored her. She's incredible." Marcus smiled faintly. "She didn't just survive. She remembered who she was. And she trusted me enough to let us help her. That's something no weapon or technology could achieve. It's human empathy, patience, and courage that made this possible." Zira's wings flexed, creating a shadow that stretched across the plateau. Her movements were graceful, controlled, and full of life. Marcus ran a careful hand along her back, marveling at the strength beneath the polished scales. "Ready for today?" he asked. Zira rumbled softly in response, the vibration resonating through the ground. Marcus knew that she was alert, ready, and willing. Today, he intended to show her not just safety and trust, but a purpose. Something beyond survival and restoration. A disturbance in the sky drew his attention. Through the rising haze, Marcus spotted another patrol of poachers approaching the colony. Unlike the previous attack, this group was larger, better equipped, and aggressive. Their ships hovered menacingly, ready to strike. "Zira," Marcus called calmly, though his pulse quickened. "We have a bigger challenge. Can you help protect the colony?" Her eyes flared brightly, and a low rumble echoed from her chest. Marcus felt the energy radiating from her. She was ready. The humans scrambled to their defensive positions, but Marcus stayed near Zira. "Follow my lead. We do this together," he instructed. The bond they had built over weeks was now unshakable. She trusted him, and he trusted her instincts. With a sudden, powerful leap, Zira launched forward, landing with a thundering impact that shook the ground. She moved with precise agility, her wings propelling her over obstacles while her massive tail swept away attacking drones. Marcus guided her through hand signals and soft commands, their movements synchronized as if they had been partners for a lifetime. The poachers were unprepared for the combination of human strategy and alien instinct. Zira blocked their advance, knocked down hovering vehicles, and her glowing eyes locked onto the leader's ship. Marcus directed her toward it. "Take the central ship," he shouted. With a mighty roar, Zira leapt, crashing down on the ship with incredible force. Sparks and energy flared as the poachers struggled to regain control. She moved quickly, clearing the remaining attackers with swift, deliberate motions. The humans, inspired by her presence, fought with confidence, rallying to secure the colony. By the end of the battle, the poachers had retreated. Zira stood victorious, her chest heaving as she roared into the sky. Marcus ran to her side, placing a hand on her massive snout. "You did it, Zira," he said. "You protected them, and you trusted me. Again." Zira rumbled in response, nudging him gently. The crew gathered closer, awe written across their faces. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A Humyn had restored and bonded with a creature that had been feared for millennia, forming an alliance that no one else in the galaxy could achieve. Over the following days, Marcus worked with Zyra to expand her role as a guardian. She patrolled the perimeter, using her intelligence and instincts to anticipate threats. The humans learned to rely on her, but they also learned to respect her autonomy. Zyra was not a tool, she was a partner, a living testament to what humans could achieve through understanding and care. Marcus also began training the crew to interact safely with Zyra. They learned to read her signals, respond to her movements, and respect her space. It was a delicate balance. Too much interference could trigger her predator instincts, but too little could leave her isolated. The humans adapted quickly, realizing that their strength was not just in weapons or technology, but in collaboration, trust, and mutual respect. One evening, Marcus and Zyra sat atop the plateau, overlooking the colony. The twin moons of Thalaris IV cast silver light across the rugged landscape, reflecting off her polished scales. Marcus spoke softly. "You've been alone for centuries, Zyra," he said, "and now you have a home, allies, and a purpose. You protect them, and they protect you. This is the life you deserve." Zyra's eyes met his, glowing faintly. She lowered her head, a gesture of acknowledgement and gratitude. Marcus could feel her intelligence and awareness, sensing that she understood the depth of their connection. In the weeks that followed, Zyra became an integral part of the colony's life. She helped transport heavy equipment, assisted in clearing dangerous terrain, and even aided in mining operations by using her strength to remove massive rock formations. Yet her greatest role remained as a guardian. Her presence alone deterred potential attackers, and her keen senses allowed humans to respond to threats before they became serious. The story of Marcus and Zyra spread beyond the colony. Nearby settlements and interstellar observers marveled at the partnership between human and Dracorian. Scientists studied their bond, noting that humans had achieved something unique, a connection with a species that had been feared as a predator for millennia. This partnership demonstrated that humanity's greatest strength was not just technology, but the ability to understand, restore, and cooperate with others, even beings far more powerful than themselves. One night, as Marcus patrolled with Zyra along the cliffs overlooking the plains, he reflected on the journey. From the moment he first discovered her entombed in crystal, through the painstaking process of cleaning and restoring her, and finally to the challenges they had faced together, he realized that this experience had changed him. Humanity had shown that courage and compassion could achieve what no weapon ever could. "Do you remember the first day?" he asked, brushing his hand along her polished scales. Zyra's rumble responded, as if acknowledging the memory. "You were wary, cautious, and yet you trusted me enough to let us help. That trust made everything possible." Zyra shifted her massive wings, stretching them wide. Marcus could see the power in every muscle, the grace in every movement, and the intelligence in her glowing eyes. She had regained not just her physical strength, but her sense of self and purpose. The colony thrived under this new partnership. Mining operations increased, defenses improved, and morale soared. The humans had not only survived on Thalaris IV, they had built something extraordinary, a bond between species that would be remembered for generations. As the twin moons rose over the horizon, casting their silver glow on the plateau, Marcus stood beside Zyra, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished. She was more than a predator, more than a guardian. She was a symbol of what humans could achieve. Their bond had restored a living legend and, in doing so, had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest power lay in empathy, understanding, and trust. Marcus whispered softly, "Together, we've restored the past and protected the future. And this is just the beginning." Zyra rumbled in agreement, her massive head resting gently against his shoulder. In that moment, they were not just human and dragon. They were partners, allies, and friends. Together, they had proven that even the most fearsome ancient creatures could be restored, guided, and trusted. And in doing so, humanity had proven something even greater. That true strength lies in compassion, courage, and connection. The story of Marcus and Zyra became a legend, not just a tale of a dragon restored after 2,000 years, but a story of hope, partnership, and the power of humans to reach beyond fear and understand even the most extraordinary beings in the galaxy. And as Thaloris the Forest's twin moons cast their silver glow across the plateau, Marcus and Zyra stood together, guardians of the colony, legends of the present, and symbols of a future where humanity's heart was as strong as its hands.